Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain nipples every day. I shake those hard brain nipples for you to get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can afford to provide you folks in-person hands-on technology education in Durham, North Carolina. So I do something called Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. We have classes every couple of weeks. We're going to have a class on AI and SQL coming up next Wednesday. We have a class on AI and web scraping coming up on November 19th. Basically, you come. These are in-person, hands-on technology classes. You learn about the material and then you go the hell away. Basically, I'm here shaking my brain nipples so I can get some money. If you would like to support the project, there's a donor box link down below. And if you want to come to one of the classes, you can go to silicondojo.com to see what our current schedule is. So continuing the Nexperia saga. Apparently Europe is coming out. The Dutch government is coming out and saying, but wait, we had our reasons. So Nexperia is turning into a global disaster. This isn't just a disaster for Europe, it's a disaster for Japan, apparently, and South Korea, and the United States. As MAGA likes to say, fuck around and find out. And as the world is learning, they fuck around and we all find out. But basically, the idea here is that the government of the Netherlands went in and they seized this company called Nexperia's headquarters, right? So Nexperia creates chips for the auto industry. Essentially, think like 50 nanometer chips. Probably not 50 nanometer, but right. Like normally when you hear about chips, you hear about all this new NVIDIA stuff and TSMC and all that kind of like 2 nanometer stuff. These are the chips that go into things like cars and trucks and that type of deal to monitor fuel intake and that type of deal. But anyways, that's what Nexperia does. So basically, they have the headquarters in the Netherlands. They have some European factories that create the wafers, and then everything gets shipped to China in order to be packaged. So this company was purchased by a Chinese company called WingTech back 2018, 2019, and a couple of days ago, or a couple weeks ago at this point, the Netherlands came in and they seized the headquarters of Nexperia from the Chinese owner, basically under national security concern. They were concerned about national security and what would happen if the Chinese did something stupid to the European auto manufacturers. And we're finding out. We're finding out, right? So basically, after the Netherlands seized the headquarters, China cut off the management or the authority between the headquarters and the Chinese division of the company. And the Chinese government said, you are not allowed to ship any of these finished products out of China. So out of China, which means the finished products are not going to Europe, the finished products are not going to the United States, the finished products are not going to Japan, and the finished products are not going to South Korea, right? And this whole brouhaha is currently going on with God knows how this is actually going to work out at the end of the day. And so the Dutch government is trying to come out and say, but we have reasons, right? Because this is making Europeans look so fucking stupid. This is making Europeans just look beyond dumb, like incompetently dumb. As I've said before, do not be racist. Do not be racist, but if you're gonna be racist, motherfucker, be competent about it, right? This is just showing them that they're stupid and incompetent at the same time. Because the theory is, right, we're going to seize this company for national security concerns. And then they seized the company, and that precipitated a national security crisis, which might be bad. I mean, which really might end up being bad, right? If all of a sudden these chips are not able to get into vehicles. Think about cars nowadays. Think about modern cars. There are so many components that go into those modern cars, and components are built on components. And so if they can't get the chips, think about how many cars literally might not be able to be produced, and then think about the knock-on effect of that. And again, not just European cars, right? This isn't just where they're kneecapping Europe. I mean, fuck, if Europe wants to kneecap Europe, hey, look, they did World War I and World War II. Anything less than that, I figure, is a win on our part. But anyways, right, they're not just kneecapping Europe. They're kneecapping Europe and basically the rest of the Western world, the rest of the industrialized economies of the world that produce things like vehicles. Plants in Mexico are shutting down. Plants in Brazil are shutting down, right? And so the Dutch government is trying to come out and say, but we had a reason. And we'll see how well this works at the end of the day. So this is coming from some random ass company because Bloomberg has it behind a paywall. But Nexperia owner was stealing trade secrets, planning to dismantle European branch, the report says. Which is kind of interesting. And this is one of those weird things where you're like, words. Words have meaning. Nexperia owner was stealing trade secrets from itself? From itself? How do you... Hey, did you see that? Did you see that? Eli, the computer guy, stole the phone from me. Yeah, no, I just took the phone and look, fuck me, my left hand stole the phone from my right hand. I'm gonna steal it back. Like, I think this is gonna be an interesting thing that comes up, especially with globalization, and especially with China. One of the big things a lot of folks don't think about in the world is that people really do look at the world differently. People look at the world differently. It's interesting, having traveled around the world quite a bit, having settled down, talked with folks, listened to folks in the whole 9 yards. It is interesting how, again, systems that so many people take for granted, other people just fundamentally don't understand. Right? Americans don't understand European healthcare systems. Europeans don't understand our gun laws. See? It's a cultural difference, right? But anyways, it's a big thing, especially when it comes to business. It's curious. I read this book called, I think it's called House of Huawei. If you have not read the book House of Huawei, I would highly recommend you read the book House of Huawei. And one of the big things it talks about later in the book is when all the crap happened between like China and Huawei in the United States. And one of the issues is how the company was set up and how the company was managed and led and all of that kind of stuff was not nice and clean like we like to see for American companies, right? So for American companies, right, there's supposed to be this division between the government and the private companies, and we basically had these divisions essentially more or less since our founding, right? So we have this whole system that's been built up. One of the interesting things with China, right, after they dealt with Mao, and then was it Jinping? No, not Jinping. Zedong. Anyway, I'll fuck this up. Anyways, right, then after Mao, and then they tried to open up their... trying to open up their economy. There was all these shifts, right? First it was destroy all the industry for some reason. And then it was like, okay, well, the industry should come back, but it should kind of be like nationalized, this whole commune type thing. But that's not really working out. Okay, so let's make it, more privatized. But when they make it privatized, it's not really privatized because it's China, so everything's not supposed to be privatized. So everybody kind of owns shares, but they don't own shares the way we own shares. They own shares differently. And so like one of the big things they talk about like with Huawei, after 30 some odd years, is it just when you look at the ownership structure and the management structure, again, from an American standpoint, you're like, what the fuck is this? You're like, right? But they build stuff, right? As far as China is concerned, as far as China as a country is concerned, they build, they ship a hell of a lot of product. They keep a lot of people employed in the whole 9 yards. So what? Why does the management and the ownership structure matter that so much? But that's the thing, for the United States it does. For them it's a bit more squiggly. And that's where you get in like this weird stuff, again, with globalization. The other thing to be thinking about too is with so much of this technology is now considered national security, right? The fact that TikTok is considered national security should be a canary fucking having a coronary in the goddamn birdcage, right? Because once you start saying that TikTok is vital national security, what else becomes national security? And so now you have these companies, right? You have these companies. So a huge amount of money outflows from the Western world into China as they industrialize. As what's supposed to happen, the people in China start having more money, so they have money to invest back in the Western world, right? That's what's supposed to happen, right? They start investing in the Western world, right? A lot of the money came from technology companies, so they invest into technology companies. But now the Western world says, well, but that technology is national security. And so you have Chinese companies now buying American and Western companies that deal with technology that's now being classified as national security. And so what happens then as the owner of these companies starts shifting things around as most owners normally would, but now it's considered national security versus simply just being a product or whatever else that you can shift around, right? You think about this like with Elon Musk right now. Look at the insanity of Elon Musk, right? You look at Elon Musk, you have XAI, you have Tesla, and you have SpaceX, right? So Elon Musk wants Tesla to buy shares of XAI. XAI is going to be providing AI services to Tesla. Hold on a second. What was that thing? Was that a mouse? Do we have a mouse in the house? Nope. We just have a centipede. I can accept a centipede. Sorry, just saw something wander over there. Jump cut. What's that? Anyways, right, we have this whole thing going on, right? But since it's all entirely inside the United States and it's Elon Musk, it makes complete sense, right? Apparently, right? Think about all the insanity that Elon Musk is doing. And think about the government doesn't seem to care one whit. The investors don't seem to care one whit. This is all good. But the funny thing is that what happens if you have a company that was purchased by a Chinese company, has a Chinese CEO, and then they start shifting around intellectual property? I wonder what the difference between Elon Musk and the owner of and the CEO of a Chinese company is. There must be a difference there. There must be a difference that I'm not seeing. So anyways, apparently, the reason that the Dutch government got involved in Nexperia is because they felt that the intellectual property was being stolen and sent back to China, and that hardware and stuff was going to be sent back to China too, which now actually brings up an interesting question. What does ownership mean in this modern, hostile, globalized world? So did I show you this? I started talking, right? So Nexperia owner was stealing trade secrets, planning to dismantle European branch, report. So wow, imagine if a company decided to dismantle a branch of their company and move it somewhere else. Right? The Dutch government intervened at Nexperia because Dutch officials believe that the chip manufacturer's Chinese owner was stealing trade secrets from a British factory and was about to dismantle the company's European branch, several insiders told NRC. So the Dutch government implemented an obscure law from the 1950s to prevent Europe from losing chip factories and expertise. Nexperia, headquartered in Nijmegen, makes inexpensive chips used in all kinds of electronics as well as in the automotive industry. The wafers, the round discs on which the chips are made, are produced in Manchester and Hamburg. The chips are then processed by a back-end factory in China. According to NRC, Zhang Zhuhing, the owner of Nexperia's Chinese parent company, Wingtech, wanted to move all wafer production to China and outsource it to another company he owns, Wing Sky Semi. To achieve this, he appropriated the chip production recipes from the Nexperia factory in Manchester, UK. This is common technology, but it does involve trade secrets, and Jinghing did share them with a Chinese competitor, his own company. So again, think about this, right? It's trade secrets, but the CEO is sharing them with a company that he also owns. Officials at the Ministry of Economic Affairs told NRC that Zhuheng threatened to lay off 40% of Nexperia's European staff and wanted to close Nexperia's research center in Munich. His plan for this had already been shared with the Work Council. Based on these two factors, the minister decided to intervene. So basically, he shared what he was doing with the Works Council, so it doesn't seem like he was doing this in secret either. Thought he probably had the ability to do it. On September 30th, Minister Vincent Carmens of the Economic Affairs implemented the Availability of Goods Act 1952 and froze Nexperia's operations. Since then, Wingtech has been unable to relocate any parts or machinery. One day later, the court also intervened in Nexperia. The Enterprise Chamber of the Court of Appeal suspended the company's director, owner, and placed Nexperia's shares under independent management. According to the government, it was coincidence that these two interventions happened so close together. So basically, the idea is that the CEO of Nexperia was stealing intellectual property and equipment from himself. which, God. Oh, the next couple of years are really gonna suck really, really hard. Because again, if you start going down this particular road, where the hell does that one end, right? With all of these cross-border, international, globalized companies doing cross-border trade. At the moment that you say, intellectual property that's owned in one factory by a company in one country cannot be shared with another factory or another place in a different company. What the fuck does that do to intellectual property rights and laws? Again, if the company owns it, I don't know. This is probably not a good particular path to be going down, but it'll be interesting to see how it works out at the end of the day. Again, the idea kind of in the Western world of we own our ideas. We own our ideas as much as we own houses. Again, I feel like that's a very Western concept, and it's done us well. To be clear, economically, it's done us well. But like one of the points in China prioritizes productivity. They prioritize execution over the value of the idea, right? So if you come up with an idea and somebody steals the idea, the person that wins is the person that's actually able to execute on that idea. And now think about it. If you have a country of 1.4 billion people, that you're trying to bring out of poverty, do you want a slow boat out of poverty, right? Where somebody creates an idea, they then have a monopoly on that idea for 20 years. They get to decide how fast they're gonna go for 20 years. If they go fast, great. If they go slow, that's also their right. So people get out of poverty whenever they get out of poverty. Or do you want a system where if somebody comes up with a good idea, 20 other people can grab that idea and run with it as fast as they can? Right? I think it makes a lot of sense for China. They're going to focus on execution over the theoretical value of the idea itself. Again, in the Western world, we have the idea that the idea is valuable and that the execution is kind of secondary to that. And so what happens as Chinese companies, Chinese people become more and more wealthy, they look at investing around the world, and then you start running into these kind of cultural loggerheads. How is that going to work out? It'll be curious. It'll be curious to see, basically, at the end of the day. This is also one of the issues, too. It's kind of funny. I get all these Chinese people that are watching, and they think like I'm a pro-Chinese person. I get a lot of the MAGA folks watching, and they think I'm like pro-Chinese. I'm just not Chinese. Let me be clear. Unlike Elizabeth Warren, I don't believe 0.00001% of your blood makes you something, right? I am not Chinese. I'm about as Chinese as Elizabeth Warren is Native American. Anyways, right? And so a lot of this stuff, I actually don't harangue China on because it's not really my fucking problem. Like, are the Uyghurs an issue? Yes. But I think we have a bigger issue with criminal justice reform in the United States. Right? When I feel comfortable that the criminal justice system in the United States is actually working reasonably well, then I might give two fucks about Uyghurs, right? But I don't, right? Like with a lot of this stuff, like there's so much of this whole push of our ideas on China, while we ignore all the problems that we have. I mean, we are literally criminalizing homelessness at this point, right? There was a Supreme Court decision that literally stated that cities do not have to provide enough shelter for homeless people before they can start arresting the homeless people for being homeless. You can literally be fucking arrested in the United States for being homeless. We fund the prison system for imprisoning homeless people instead of funding, homeless shelters. So anyways, right, we have a tremendous number of problems here in the United States, and that's why I focus on the United States. I do not believe our plans make a lot of sense, right? If we do not deal with the zoning issues in the United States, if we do not deal with education issues in the United States, if we don't deal with so many things, again, training the next generation of young people that it's cool to own factories, right? Future farmers of America, future business people of America, where's the future factory owners of America, right? I think every school district should have a vocational program for people to become factory owners. Again, as I've talked about before, if I wanted to create another MSP company, I could do that. If I wanted to create a consulting company, I could do that. If I wanted to create a restaurant, I'm pretty sure I could do that. I don't know how to build a factory. It's not even just building the factory, but the factory business, right? I don't really understand how the factory business works. And I think most people, even if you told them, yes, we need to reshore to the United States, they wouldn't know how to build a factory, save their fucking lives, right? And so that's why I focus on the United States, because our plans are self-destructive, continuously blaming other people for our problems as we don't solve our problems, right? The Trump administration is fine sending an aircraft carrier down to Venezuela. The Trump administration is fine murdering people in boats, right? J.D. Vance literally laughed at the idea of if he was a Venezuelan, he would not want to go out fishing. Think about that. Think about the absolute state of terror our administration is willing to put on the Venezuelan people to prove that they're alpha dogs, right? The thought that he laughs at the idea of actual Venezuelan fishermen going out and fishing. Like, oh, I wouldn't feel safe fishing right now. Fuck me. Literally, J.D. Vance is saying it is okay for America to murder fishermen for whatever the hell is going on. But what I want you to understand is where are the drug treatment programs? Where are the mental health programs? The Christian right. Where are the nationalized drug rehab programs? Where is the massive emphasis and investment going for things like mental health and that kind of thing? It's funny how the Christian right is all excited about murdering Venezuelan fishermen, but doesn't seem that fucking concerned about providing mental health care to actual Americans, just as Jesus would want, right? Jesus would not want you to help your fellow man. He'd want you to murder your neighbor. Right? Apparently, that's what the Christians believe. As I've said many times before, if the giggle of a baby is proof of God, the church is proof of Satan. Right? But anyways, right, here's the thing. So the United States has a lot of problems. We need to solve these problems regardless of whatever's going on in the world. Again, with SiliconDojo.com, right? Providing technology education, providing a system of education. Anybody comes, they learn how technology works, they go the hell away, right? That's the kind of systems that I believe in. But one of the things that I will put out there, again, I don't snark on China a lot just because it's not my business most of the time, but China also has to start thinking about what the fuck they're doing, right? As again, I talk about this with supremacy. It's funny. I get all these Chinese people in the comments and they're like, yeah, well, our society is 5,000 years old and oh, fuck off, right? Look, jackasses, supremacy is stupid. When Whitey is a supremacist, it's fucking stupid. When you're a fucking supremacist, it's also fucking stupid. Hey, Chinese supremacists, how the fuck did that go for you for 100 years? Hey, I remember when the Chinese fucking supremacists were so fucking arrogant about the goddamn barbarians. The barbarians handed them their ass, right? The Chinese supremacists were so fucking sick in the goddamn head when a threat came down the pike, right? They thought their powers or whatever would save them, and they got fucked for 100 years. Think about that, China people. The 100 years of humiliation was based on your own fucking supremacist horseshit. And why I'm putting that out there right now, right? Again, is with this Nexperia thing. One of the things you're seeing with China is starting to push a lot of this our way of the highway. But China is breaking the global system. One of the things that you do have to consider, right, is China's supremacist attitudes are breaking the systems they rely on to bring their people out of poverty, right? They do not survive successfully in a world that is broken any better than we do. And so that's one of the things that's coming up with a lot of this kind of thing too, is China really needs to start thinking about how their business people go and do business with the rest of the world, right? This whole thing now, right? The economy is going to hell. So more and more Chinese companies are producing more and more goods, basically almost at a loss, and they're flooding the rest of the world with their products, right? The Chinese manufacturing machine is now destroying the industrial capacity of many countries in the rest of the world. Do you think that's fucking wise? Do you think that's actually smart? Like, a lot of what China is putting out is breaking the systems that they in fact rely on. And that's one of the things to be thinking about with this kind of thing too, is as Chinese companies go out into the wider world, right? The Chinese government has a lot of power. What are the checks and balances the Chinese government is going to put onto those companies that invest in the rest of the world to make sure that it doesn't turn into an absolute and utter shit show? Like, one of the big things going on right now is this whole idea that we're doing better than China. Here's the thing. If you got a whole bunch of people, let's say you got 5 or 6 people, and they all come together, they're all on a desert island, right? And in order to survive on that desert island, they've got to do stuff. One person fishes, and one person creates fishing hooks, and one person, farms or whatever, grows things, collects things, whatever else. Let's say one of them is doing too much and gets too much of a surplus, and another one of them gets to be lazy. Well, what happens if 1 or 2 of those people basically say, I'm not going to do any work anymore? I'm not going to do any work anymore. But everybody depends on each other. Right? And the argument is the other person will starve to death first. Right? The other person violated the rules of the road. Ergo, I'm not going to play this game anymore. I may go hungry and I may die of starvation, but by God, the other person will starve to death first. Does that seem like a wise way to go? For anybody. Chinese supremacists or white supremacists. Again, I see the Chinese people. Stop. Fucking stop, you dipshits. Look, you may know fucking calculus at 8 years old. Again, I'm really impressed with like the education system with China. That's amazing. But there's something called fucking context. I do think it's interesting with China. It's always interesting, like the China people come out and they talk about this. Yeah, well, we have a country of politicians that are engineers, and you have a country of lawyer politicians. And it's like, you do realize that's a problem, dipshits. You do realize your system, as it's been running up until this point in time, makes a lot of sense if all of your politicians are engineers. Again, building factories, building water systems, building electrical systems, the whole 9 yards. It makes sense. Okay, your politicians are all engineers. They're really good on that. How good are they with human beings? How good are they with understanding when they are pushing people too far? How good are they at understanding when they're pushing other people to the breaking point? How good are they at understanding their win is considered a loss by other people? Again, what's fucking hilarious out of these Chinese pieces of shit that come on here is, again, they get so arrogant about we are in this, right? We are in 2025. How all this shit works out at the end of the day, we won't know for the next couple of decades, right? If you have politicians that are 100% focused on engineering tasks and they're not dealing with humans, right? What happens to China when the rest of the world decides to blacklist them? Like, it's an interesting thing, right? Because we think about the past and how the past was, right? And so with China, right, for however long, right, they built up their walls against the rest of the world, right? They sent out their exploratory fleets. There's a great book, I forget what the name of the book was, but they sent out their fleets to circumnavigate the world and to explore and to create relationships with all these different people all around the world. And then when the ships came back, they burned the fuckers. They burned the fuckers. Like, what? Yep. They explored the world. And then their emperor burned the fucking ships. Right? But here's the thing, right? There's always this idea of this closed off kingdom that everybody else in the world wanted to get into, right? They have the value they want to get into. Here's the thing. supremacist Chinese people, what happens when the rest of the world builds a fucking wall around you? What happens when the rest of the world doesn't want to fucking deal with you? What happens when the walls go up? But it's not because you're trying to control the walls. It's because everybody's fucking done with your shit. Right? This is one of those things to be thinking about because yeah, with all this, I mean, China's doing some stupid shit. China's just doing a tremendous amount of stupid shit, along with the United States. Again, I focus on the United States because I'm an American. Because it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter at the end of the day. If we don't fix our education system, if we don't fix our housing system, if we don't fix our healthcare system, the rest of it, it doesn't matter what China does, right? The reason that fentanyl is an issue in the United States is because Americans are so desperately miserable. Like, I remember the 90s. I remember when meth came out. I remember meth, right? Meth. Oh, meth was the drug for the grunge generation, a DIY drug. But think about this, right? In the 70s, you know, they had their set of drugs. In the 80s, there were the set of drugs. In the 90s, there were a set of drugs. In 2000, set of drugs. 2010s, 2020s. But through all of this is an insatiable demand for Americans to disengage from the situation that they're in, right? Whether it's LSD, whether it's cocaine, whether it's meth, whether it's opioids, whether it's fentanyl, there's a tremendous, deep, cancerous need in the people of our country to just get the fuck away from reality. And so here's the thing. Here's the problem with Trump and this whole fentanyl thing. Just to lay it out, right? You know, fucking bombing fishermen down in Venezuela or tariffing the hell out of China. Even if they eliminate fentanyl, tomorrow it will be the next drug, right? As I say, 80s, it was crack and cocaine. 90s, it was meth. Then it was opioid. The drugs change. The deep, cancerous need for the drugs doesn't. Until we as a society try to start solving the problems that make our society so painful for a huge chunk of the population to be in, then all we're doing is we're just going to be changing the brand name of the drug. It's not really going to be solving the fucking problem. So anyway, so that's why I beat up on the United States. Because until we solve our issues, whatever, we stop fentanyl, we get the next thing coming down the pike. But dear China people, stop. Stop. I know it's fucking cute. I know your propaganda core shit seems really cute. Oh, look, I'm going to say propaganda core shit on this guy's channel from the United States. Look, it's propaganda core shit too. You've got major problems. And if you don't start thinking about what the fuck you're doing, there are going to be walls around China, but you ain't going to be the fucking gatekeepers of those damn things. So anyways, it is kind of curious with this whole Nexperia thing. Again, the idea of Chinese company owns a European company, the Chinese CEO then starts shifting around intellectual property and equipment. Yeah, what does that mean for modern business and national security and all that kind of stuff? So anyways, put your thoughts down below. I'm sure there'll be lovely thoughts. I'm sure your lovely thoughts will go down below. Give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a dumbass. You know you want to. Just be a strong American in your comment, like Lutnick would approve of. Don't be no weak European comment down there. Again, as I say, what I actually care about is Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. Free to end user hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do. Again, we're having classes. Next week, we're having AI and SQL. November 19th, we're having AI and web scraping. We're going to have more and more. We are going to be having weekend boot camps coming up, hopefully within the next couple of months. If you're interested in those, go to silicondojo.com. Free to the end user is not actually free. Again, that's why there's a donor box link down below. And again, I really want you to be thinking about this with the modern world. So much of what is currently going on is blaming other people for our problems. And I don't see how that solves our problems, right? if China stops shipping us fentanyl, we're just going to find another fucking drug. Right? If China stops shipping, manufactured goods, I mean, do you really think we're going to have this manufacturing renaissance in the United States? Do you think we're positioned to have a manufacturing renaissance? Would you know what to do? Again, if you are a business owner right now, let's say you're a business owner, you've got $5 million in liquid assets. You have $5 million that you can put on the table. Would you have any idea how to create manufacturing capability of any sort? Of any sort. Right? If we don't solve these issues, the rest doesn't matter. But anyways, that's my thought. And the China people, they just, look, you're going to get kicked in the nuts. You're being arrogant little shits. I mean, coming from an arrogant little shit, I'm telling you, you're being arrogant little shits. Again, the walls are coming. The walls are coming. Anyways, with that, see y'all later.